Hello. So I just built a coiled spout, okay, and it's in the beginning rough stages. However, the height, I have my needle tool here so you can see the height. It's gonna be the height of the needle tool sans or without the actual needle, so that the handle part, your spout should be. And you make it this tall because you're eventually going to have it cut. You'll be cutting it at an angle so that it can be attached to your teapot at an upright angle, okay, eventually. And I can go ahead, I'll show you that in a minute. But before we do, I want to show you the inside of the spout. It has to be very, very, very seriously smeared on the inside. Okay, why do you think that is, Ainsley?
So it doesn't leak?
Yeah, so it doesn't leak and it doesn't fall apart eventually. So I already started this process. I just used a brush, okay, a rounded brush to get in there. You can also use your fingers to start, okay, the process, or to smooth eventually, or a moistened wooden modeling tool, the tip of it. But you may have problems getting into the thinnest areas, and that's where the brush, the pointy brush, works out really well. Okay, so you want it fairly thin or thick at the top. It should be like a funnel, okay, and then it tapers in, and you want it the thinness of your finger, or the hole, the size of your finger, okay, at the top. Okay, and again, this one is very plastic, so I haven't had the chance yet to smooth all the little lumpy bumpies out of it, or the stretch marks. So I will take time to do that before I put it on my pot. But while it's very plastic, I just wanted to show you all that it has to be the height, again, of your needle tool without the needle, okay, the handle of the needle tool. And it has to be seriously smeared on the inside. And again, just like Ainsley said, so it won't leak and so it won't come apart. Okay, so I'm using my finger just to make sure it's smeared in there. And I'm pretty satisfied with it. I think that it's smeared really well. And there's no sharp parts either, because when you go, oh, I see a little area that needs to be smeared better. Because when you go to wash your teapot, if you put your hand, especially if Granny goes to wash it, she didn't spill the tea the whole time she was using it. And then she goes to wash it and she puts her hand up inside, and then she'll cut her hand if she doesn't, if you don't smooth the inside. And because all those little fraggly ends, when this is fired, becomes a rock, becomes a stone, it'll be sharp. So you need to make sure you smooth inside really well. So I have this smoothed. You would want to wait till it's leather hard to do the cut, to face it upright for your pot. And I'm gonna zoom out so you see that. However, I'm gonna go ahead and cut it now, okay? So that you see that. So this is where I do want my Ceramics 1 students to walk over if you're not already over here. And can you bring me a knife, darling? So you're gonna wanna cut at an angle, so that your teapot, first off, find your pouring point. I like this as a good pouring point. And so I'm gonna wanna cut this at an angle. And this is the scary part, because we're like, oh, you're cutting into what you just did. So what degree angle would that be? 90? If it's slanted?
45.
Like a 45, yeah, like a 45-degree angle on both sides. So I'm just making a line first, a kind of deep line. And now I'm gonna go in with the knife and cut it, okay? And have a clean knife, it helps. And if you wet your knife, that helps too, because then it doesn't get stuck, okay? And I'm gonna just cut. My ceramics too, guys, students, you're doing fantastic over there. Keep up the good work. Okay, so I have a nice angle, you see, and eventually before you add this, will you slip its score here?
Yes.
Yes, definitely, right? And then before you add it, I've had lots of students forget this part. Do you have to make a hole in your pot? If you forget, is your pot gonna be functional? No, okay, so you have to determine where you want it. I have my little butterfly, my flower, my rainbow. So I want to look at like the way, the shape of the pot and determine, and I think I'm going to put it like where my, like kind of in the middle of my rainbow. Okay, here. So I will eventually join this to this. Okay. And I want it, I can take this and bend it now that it's plastic upright. And you want them to be about the same height. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. Why do you want the top of the spout to be the same height as the lip of the spout, or the lip of the pot? Go ahead.
So it doesn't, if you're pouring tea, it doesn't come out the lid instead of
Yeah.
the spout.
And where do you want it to come out?
Spout.
The spout, right? So you don't want to spill tea on Granny, right? Okay. And you also want your spout to have a good pouring point. So that's why I'm kind of going like, do you see how I'm kind of shaping it now? Mm-hmm. Okay. So if you do all this sizing stuff, you can do that. Now, some people that might think, well, this looks awkward. And you know what? I think it does. I think I need to cut more up here. So you can do that. If it just looks too bulky, you can cut more off of the thicker part. Okay. And again, use a wet, clean knife so it doesn't snag. Okay, so I'm just dipping my knife in water and kind of wiped off some of the clay. I'm gonna go up higher on it. So that's why you start with all that height, and then these scraps, you just wedge them together and you can continue to make more coils with them. And again, we're not joining, we're just sizing it up. And you wanna do that while it's plastic so that you know you have the right, you know what I mean, shape. And it dries then in this shape. You would just lay it on the table. You could also take a piece of plastic bag or piece of plastic and shove it up inside of this while it's drying so it keeps its shape. And I would recommend that overnight. And again, let's put it now against the pot so we can see kind of how that form would look. And I'm happier with that. I think it looks more attractive. It's ready to just sit for a while I make the other parts of my pot, such as the handle. What other parts do I need to make? Go ahead. Michaela, yeah.
The lid.
The lid, what else? Yes.
Lid knob and lid flange.
Lid knob and the lid flange. So the main part of the lid, and there's three parts, the lid flange, the lid knob, yes.
The feet.
And the feet, yeah, okay, or foot, if you wouldn't just make one coil for the foot, or a slab for the foot, or you can make little balls or whatever, little pegs, whatever shape. Did we miss anything? We got it. And the handle, right? I would start the handle next. The reason being, just like the spout, that needs to be very leather hard, and it needs to sit in its position for quite some time. So I'm gonna real quick just demonstrate how to roll a coil for the handle. Okay, so this demonstration will cover a spout and a handle. And again, you want to make sure you moisten your desk. You want to make sure that you start with like a little ball of clay, and you turn that into a little nugget, okay? And then you go ahead and roll the clay. And I'm going to ask for everyone to make sure they're paying special attention to me rolling the coils, because I know a lot of students have had trouble. If it starts to get like lumpy bumpy, then like flatten it on the side, on one of the sides, so it stays round. You don't want one side to be flat and one side round. And you do want to use both hands when you're rolling, and you do want that moist table when you're rolling. And this is a really thick coil, but would it be really good for a handle? Yes. Okay, you want your handle to be thicker, to have a lot more girth. If you want to twist your handle, okay, and have two of them, so you can put this one to the side, and two coils that you twist together. You make the other one. And again, I started with a little ball. I made it into like a little nugget, and now I'm just rolling. And again, it keeps getting flat on one side, so you just kind of do that and then continue rolling. And I like the thickness of both those. They're both very girthy, very thick. This is the trick, okay? And this is where a lot of students mess up. You want to first make sure they look really good. So get any like little lumpy bumpies or weird like folds, lines out of them. And turn it around a few. And now you're going to dip I had like a little semi wet sponge. I'm going to really soak my sponge now. And am I zoomed out? Oh yeah, I can zoom out a little more. Whoopsie. Okay. I'm going to soak my sponge a little more, like really wet these. So they're like drippy wet. Because if you don't do that, they end up getting stretch marks on them when you twist them. And now I can twist. And could you build, oopsie, could you build your teapot up with twists? Yeah, okay, you can do that. I've even had students, I'm not a fan of it, that braid, because it gets, even though I have this very wet, do you see that there's a little bit of crack starting? Okay, and those aren't called cracks, they're just stretch marks. But when you do braids, you really have to work very, very wet, and you really want to avoid those stretch marks. If you start getting stretch marks even when you're twisting, you want to smear them out quickly, okay, and get rid of them. And then kind of, just massage the pieces together. This helps when that water turns into slip and helps them stay together better when they're being fired, okay? And then you want to put it in its shape. You want to put this, I'll slide this to the side, lay my tray out, get rid of my tools. Want to make sure not to put away tools today, make sure they go in the right place. And I have my handle. This handle could be cut later for the side, to be on the side, or could this be long enough to go over the top? Okay, so you see I have 3 parts made. My main vessel, again, my spout, which I can stuff. Does anyone have a plastic bag nearby, not a baggie? Anyone?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect, okay. I can just rip a little piece off the top of a bag. Never just rip up a bag, but a bag can still be used if you rip some of the top off, okay? Like that, and you can stuff it inside. And I would recommend that everyone does that. That'll really help. And again, you want to have your spout shaped on top nicely. If you lose some of that beautiful coil work, and this goes for when you're building the pot too, you can use like a impressing tool to kind of give you back your nice lines. And I'll probably go over some of these lines later, but I think they look pretty darn good. Would you guys agree? Yeah. And I'll smooth that. There are some little bit of stretch marks. I'll smooth that all out. But I like this spout. It's kind of a chunky spout. It's fun. But my pot is kind of chunky too, so it goes. And you just want to think, about how everything will unify, in regards to before you put it together, okay? All right, thank you for watching. You learned how to do to smooth out a spout and to make a handle. And you can bag these all together, because then they'll be the same plasticity, okay? So eventually you'll probably have your own tray, okay? Because you have so many parts for the teapot, okay? Thank you, have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.